Hey, this is Lord Gates from Rapture Radio. I'm excited today because on my Zoom call, I have an old friend that I haven't seen in a long time. He's up north, he's in the Massachusetts area. It's Derek, aka Deek Diedricksen. I said it right. I said it right, didn't I?
Gold star, gold star, 2 gold stars.
Two.
Yeah.
So what's up, Deek? It's been a few. I mean, I don't think I've seen you in about 3-4 years.
Has it been that long already?
I've been down here in North Carolina. It'll be 3 years in let's see. No, it'll be 4 years in August. So yeah, it's coming up on about 4. I think the last time I saw you was probably at one of the events at Altones. Either you went
probably,
or playing or and then after that it was kind of a mishmash of, I was trying to put my life together and get my family down here, and I'm trying to keep in touch with everybody. But yeah, I don't think we've spoken through Facebook, but we haven't really spoken in like this kind of format in a while. So
yeah,
what the hell's going on, man? What's
nothing much. I think I was coming back to last time I was talking. I think we were nerding out on metal bands, talking about like Souls at Zero or something like that.
Oh,
that the guys in my band were pulling me away because I was
like,
falling to the vortex of metal. They're like, "We're going on stage. You need to go." And you and I are just gabbing about old metal bands.
We were.
Oh yeah.
I remember we were outside of Rest in Peace, the Lucky Dog. Do you remember that? That's one of the first times you and I were hanging out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Lucky Dog Music Hall. We were doing a quick interview out
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
And you were recording, I think, a couple liners for me for the radio station. So that's been a few.
I miss that club, man. A lot of them have gone the way of the dodo.
That was, I mean, I can say we can go down the rabbit hole of back in the day, Boston clubs killed it, Providence clubs killed it. Yeah. For Worcester, the only real club for me was either the Lucky Dog or Ralph's. Those were the two.
Ralph's is still awesome. Ralph's is still going strong. We played there. We haven't played there in a while. COVID's been weird, but we've played there a couple of times. Did very well. That place is awesome. It's like a rock and roll flea market.
Yeah, it's reminds me of like kind of the From Dusk Till Dawn, where you go in, you have to walk through the cafe, the diner, and then go up this long set of stairs, and there's a little small stage and everything's dark. But I saw the last show I saw there was Karen Crisis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Gospel of Witches.
Cool.
So it's a while. So
I used to see Crisis. Yeah, that we're getting down the rabbit hole.
So Deek, you're the front man of the band Inverter. You guys are based out of what part of Massachusetts?
Basically the Boston area. We're kind of scattered about, but we all kind of met in Boston, based around there, play there. So we just say Boston instead of mentioning 4 different towns that people maybe haven't heard of. A lot of bands do that.
Who else is at the helm? Who else is in the band?
In the band, so there's Bill Bracken on guitar. And the strange thing is, I used to be a radio announcer for WBCN in Boston, a huge FM station for about 7 years. CBS Radio, Viacom, the evil corporate
104.1, right?
That's right. That's right. So for years and years, interviewing me on Metallica, Limp Bizkit, all those bands. So Bill Bracken was the chief engineer over there at BCN. Jimmy Evangelista on bass, worked for the Street Team Promotions. I never even knew the guy played bass until 10 years later, and he's phenomenal. And Jeff Lawn, I guess at one point loosely was tied to BCN too, and did some stuff with them. But Jeff Lawn was in the band Seventh Rail Crew.
Yeah, I remember Seventh.
Drummer for them. His brother Jay was the front man for that, who was in a bunch of cool bands then, now, before. And Jeff at one point in time was the drummer for Genuflect, which is Drew from Reveille.
I remember Genuflect.
That band.
I remember though. Yeah.
Yeah, they did a whole US tour at one point and a couple albums, and just kind of imploded.
Yeah, exploded. I think I saw them at Green Hill Park for like Local Bazooka one year.
Yeah, they were good.
Like 10,000 bands and a lot of Dust and Slipknot and just all the Power Man 5000. But yeah,
we still talk to Greg from Reveille a lot. Jeff's really good friends with
Reveille.
Greg's like a super chill, awesome person, phenomenal guitar player. And he's one of those, if I ever did a side project, I'm like, I want that guy on guitar.
Yeah, you're like, his
riffs are so good.
What's my bucket list, my A list? I want to team up with him and I want to do something with him. For me, it was, I always wanted to be any way, shape. I don't care what it was, whether it was they would punch me in the face before the beginning of the show and throw me into the crowd, so the crowd mauled me.
War.
Well, no, that would be cool. No, scissor fight. I'm a huge. I know you're a scissor fight fan, and so am I. I love.
I literally was talking to Jay about 3 days ago.
Yeah,
Jay Fortin, because we have a show
awesome.
coming up way down the road that was offered in Boston. I said I'd love to get you guys on this, but they're kind of not on hiatus right now, but not doing a ton of stuff. So that's
I see like Jay is like always selling off some
leather works.
Well, not only that, but like some piece of like scissor fight history. Like he's got street signs and he's got t-shirts, and for me, I'm a big guy, so nothing ever fits me.
Yeah.
But I think like out of all my scissor fight stuff, the only stuff I still have is I have a scissor fight hat.
The orange hat?
No, I have one of the newer ones that he sent me, the black one with the trucker. And then I bought one of the trucker shirts, but then I think I have a bunch of scissor fight stickers from back in the day.
Their merch has always been the best, and that's kind of what we try to do. I call it the scissor fight approach. Do a short run of shirts, never print them again, and make a new batch. And this way, when we go to shows and people come out with Inverter shirts, you can date when they got into the band.
You're like, oh, you came in 2017.
Yeah, like we have a real old one, which is the first one. It's a graffiti, like this snake, this serpent with graffiti letters. And it's like, like most of my art, 2 months after I create it, I hate it and think it's the worst. So I see those shirts and cringe, but people show up with them and they sold out. So it's funny just seeing those are the OG Inverter shirts way back.
When did you birth Inverter? When did it actually start? How long ago?
It goes a ways back, and it's kind of a interesting, I guess, story that's up-provoting. Bill and I it was kind of born out of, we were in a Rage Against the Machine tribute band called Age Against the Machine, which we started for fun. Because they're all like, those guys in that band were all 10 years older than me, and thought, let's make fun of our age, being older dudes. They were looking for a drummer. Bill loosely remembered I played drums. So they auditioned me and 17 other drummers for this band, and I got the spot. And this little fun side tribute project, the only tribute I've ever been in, all original bands besides that, it became something. Like, we recorded songs for Columbia Records, intros for the WWE wrestlers.
Oh, wow.
When they had a revamp of the G.I. Joe cartoon, some music was done for that. Anyways, that ran its course. We did that for almost 7 years, and we toured Canada twice and played some huge festivals. Got the blessing of the real Rage Against the Machine. Hung out with Tom Morello, but it ran its course after a while. You get bored of playing that same stuff from a band that's not releasing new material. Right. And I missed writing original stuff. So Bill and I, all the while, we're just screwing around. Once in a while, we get together, drink a little whiskey and record some riffs in his basement, and started putting out a couple songs, which became a full-length album of a band that wasn't a band. I came up with the name after we, batted around 1,000 names, some of them ridiculous. And basically we put out this, I think it's 8 or 9 songs, the first album, and it's just Bill and I, which a lot of people don't know. So I'm playing all the drums in the first album.
Oh, okay.
And vocals, and Bill's doing basic guitar. We put it out, started getting some reviews, and then started getting show offers. And I'm like, we're not even a band, it's a studio project.
Right.
But we got so many offers and interest that we put together a band, and immediately kind of knew Jeff Lawn, hard-hitting dude, one of the few drummers in the scene that beats the crap out of his drums. Great guy. Called him, and bassist was tougher.
Of course. The deal. Dude, drummers and guitarists are everywhere. Singers and bass player.
Guitarists are everywhere. And see, it's tough with drums because I played drums so long. I was endorsed by Meinl, and I played at a fairly high level for a while. To find drummers, I told Bill, I said, I want a drummer at least as good as me, or if not better, or it's pointless.
Right.
Because, I'll be there second judging or criticizing everything they do, or cringing when they mess up stuff. And Jeff's great and easy to work with, like super laid back guy. That worked out nicely. And the bassist, we went through a bunch of them, trying them out, and some didn't learn the material for rehearsal. And that was like, you're automatically out if you don't come prepared. Like, we're taking this seriously.
We're Motley Crueing you. Bye. You're going.
Yeah, kind of. And it was tough because some of them were people I knew. At one point, speaking of Reveille, I approached Carl from Reveille because he's one of the more like visually awesome bassists out there. And he was just too busy. He's like a professional makeup artist and does this mind-blowing stuff. And he's got his whole career, his old focus over there. And we had picked at one point, kind of temporarily, Brendan Cheever from Controlled Aggression And
Yeah, what was the other one? I know
he was in
who you're
High
talking about.
Karate for a while.
High
He was in a
Karate.
bunch.
Yep.
He was involved in one of the early lineups of like Null Said. Anyways, he's like the best dude ever. Great bassist. He's got the mountain man look. He kind of had the part, but told us he'd only be able to do this in a limited fashion. And we forgot we had one more rehearsal with this guy, Jimmy Evangelista, who looks like he worked as a neck breaker for the Mob, big, bald, barrel-chested dude. And he came in, and within one song, and to throw him for a loop, he showed up and Jeff, the drummer, couldn't make it. So he tried out without drums. I played drums.
Oh my God.
No vocal cues.
No.
So he plays these songs. And as he's playing them, he's getting into it and shouting out all the lyrics too and knew every damn note. And I go over to Bill as Jimmy's not looking. I mouthed during song one. I said, "This is the guy."
Yeah.
And he's just such a great bass player. He's just got this low end and approach. It kind of reminds me of just, he never overdoes it. It's almost like I forget the bassist for the band Tad. I always love Tad.
Yeah, Tad. Yeah,
Tad's all about the low end. And Jimmy's style. Jimmy probably doesn't know who Tad is, but Jimmy's style reminds me a little bit of that kind of stuff.
Not to sound cliche, but I mean, Inverter really has to be experienced live. I mean, I love the records, but the first time I saw you guys live, I think I was with Dwayne Eldridge, because I'm pretty sure at that time we were just trying to go and see as many local bands as possible everywhere. We were going, and this was probably pre-Altone shows. So there weren't many venues to go to that were showcasing, original bands. You could play, there was like 33 Golden, that you go to in London. Place, Yep. You go to Ralph's up in Worcester. But I remember going to see you guys. We were talking about this where we were up at the Sir Morgan's Cove, aka Lucky Dog. And I just remember like Dwayne like elbowing me, and he's like, "You're gonna love this. This is all you, Gates. This is your band." Funny, and I go, yeah, whatever. I've seen a bunch of bands, and then you come out and do the jumping around, and it's the sound that like I like that sound. I get it. I can go from black metal. I can go from black metal to classic metal, but I don't even know how to describe it. It's just one of those bands where like you're standing in the front, and there's so much going on, like aesthetically, and then you start like tuning into the music, like, wow, these guys are fucking good. Holy wow, and then people are dancing and moshing and just
we played that Altone show, probably the one you saw at and by the way, More in the Light, shout to them, Dwayne, probably the nicest dudes in the scene, great band, I love them, and they have done so much, and yourself as well, for Altones, which is now Prost, it's called.
Prost.
Yes. But I think the show you saw us at, Dwayne goes to us, he's like, "Hey, I heard you guys, I dig it, I want to put you in a show." He's like, "But listen, you're not from the area, you're new, so you got to go on first in the second room." I was like,
I remember that. So yep.
I do all the booking. I'm like, "Oh, dude, the guys are gonna kill me, to drive that far and play early." I'm like, whatever, you got to pay our dues. We've been paying our dues for 30 years.
Of course, but new venue and new.
We play in this little, like, that crummy room in front with a fireplace and on the stage. And we're on so early. I'm like, this is gonna suck. The guys will be pissed at me. And that scene is so supportive that people, which is unlike Boston, I gotta say, people were there early and getting into it and bought a ton of stuff. I'm like, wow. And at Jewett City, I've been to many times because I have family there. Actually, I'm like, this is awesome. We'll definitely come back here.
I lived right up the road from there. I was in Plainfield, so I would go to all those shows before we actually, moved to down here to North Carolina. So I got to experience like 2 full years of just amazing shows, like incredible shows. The Doom Fest that they were doing was just top notch. That's something you would see like out in Vegas, or something that you would experience on a higher level, where Dwayne really wanted to keep the essence of, it's a small town, but we're going to do as much as we can with this venue, because that venue could have folded.
It was basically a room, you walk in there like, this place should be condemned, and slowly Dwayne and all you guys turned it into something, the Doom Saloon, that was kind of awesome. You'd be like, it went from being this dump to, as you walked in, like, wow, this place is this hidden gem.
But to go back in time, the Rat was the same way. That place should have been condemned. CBGBs,
That was also a dump inside and outside.
Yeah, correct.
I got my nose broken at a Blood for Blood show by
I got
what's his Mike from Boston Mike from Scarhead,
from
busted my
Scarhead.
nose. Yeah. So I got like, I got a very crooked nose because of that.
I got hit in the side of the head by Choke with his hockey stick at the Rat at one of the shows.
Yeah,
I forget who they're
nuts,
playing with. I wasn't paying attention, and it just all of a sudden I was like Tommy Boy. I was like, it doesn't hurt so much here or here as it does right
the
here.
big bruiser.
And it was like a flat, like a the hook.
Tommy Boy.
It was a goalie stick, so it was like the flat part, and it just and I knew I got hit because everybody next to me was like, oh, like that's gonna leave a mark. But those back in the day, being young and chaotic and going to like the Worcester Artist Group and going to like these places that were DIY, anything was possible. That was the best thing about for me that time in music is you got to experience these bands on the come up. You got to see bands that were starting off and then they got their due. They were, the bands like Kilgore, I mean, perfect scenario.
Jay's an amazing vocalist. I love that
band. And all those guys in that band did their due diligence and got to a level where they're playing Ozfest and Local Bazooka and touring with Slayer and stuff.
Yeah, Slayer,
but then they went away, they broke up, and then they got back together. They did an album and they were doing
we played their comeback show in Rhode Island. Yeah.
I went there.
That was an honor to play that show. Yeah, there's so many great bands that have come out of this era. I remember talking about old school shows. We sound like old men saying this, but when I lived in Boston, we go to Mission Hill and they have these basement shows. I remember seeing, because for 1 year I went to school and lived in Rochester, New York. I'm going to a lot of shows in Buffalo and Rochester, because Rochester,
no,
no comment.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah, keep it.
But it has its perks. But I saw Despair at a basement show there because I knew Despair from the Buffalo scene. They play with Snapcase and all those bands out there. And Scott Vogel and Despair shortly after formed Buried Alive, signed to Victory, then did Terror. But I saw them in this basement. You couldn't even stand up. And there were like 12 people in the basement, probably, covered in asbestos. And they were awesome.
I have, so a buddy of mine, not to get off topic, but this will happen.
Of course we will.
So Ed Hill is a friend of mine from the Massachusetts area. He lives out in San Francisco. He lives out in California now. I think it's San Francisco. And him and I have been videotaping bands since like 87. So when a show would come to Connecticut or Rhode Island, I would film it. Or I'm sorry, Connecticut and New York, I would film it. Rhode Island, sometimes I would film it. Massachusetts, I mean, he filmed everything. So I literally have, and I'll bring
YouTube
it over.
Gold.
I'll bring it over after. So I am finishing up the very last 5 videotapes he sent me over the past 17 years. He's been sending them to me over VHS and I convert them to digital. And my YouTube channel it's like over 500 videos, but it's everything from like bands like Arise and Kingpin and Wrecking Crew to Burn, Cro-Mags, Bad Brains, to stuff like, Leeway and the New York stuff, Raw Deal and Sick of It All. And then harder to find stuff, like Wino when he was doing his stuff and St. Vitus and I believe that there's you have to preserve that. It's history. So coming up,
I had a tape. Oh, sorry. I had a tape once upon a time that Charlie Platypus from Crawl Below and 17 other bands.
Yeah, everything.
That he makes fun of himself. Way back, I lent him a VHS because I was in a band with Charlie called Open Hostility in like 94, 95. This is one of my first bands.
Wow.
And we would film our shows, and they were on one master VHS tape that I had. I remember one show was us, the Hamden VFW, with Hatebreed, Times Expired, Peaceful Non-Existence from North Carolina, who were this freaking awesome band that no one knew of, and a bunch of other bands. So shows like that. Then later playing the not the LNG, we played the Tune In with Fury of 5 and AC.
Yeah.
And all those on the tape. And I lent it to him at one point in time and it just disappeared. I've asked him so many times, like, where's that tape? It's just gone. Gone.
I remember going to shows at the Tune In, going to see bands like 108 and Shelter and Buzz Oven.
Yeah.
And
we were probably at half those same shows together. I think we've talked about this.
Well, you're actually from Connecticut, right? You grew up in Madison?
Yes, I grew up in Madison, Connecticut, which is really close to New Haven. I would go to the Tune In, Toad's Place. We just actually recently played Toad's Place again, and that was an honor. So all those clubs growing up, that's where I would hang out and see bands and be inspired.
I was in Putnam, Connecticut. So I was on the Rhode Island, Massachusetts.
The quiet corner of Connecticut.
The quiet corner of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And my first radio job, because we have a lot in common, my first radio job was 1350 a.m. WINY Putnam. It's 3:00, and I was doing afternoon drive from 3 to 6, but I was playing adult contemporary music, Toe the Wet Sprocket, into Barry Manilow, into whatever,
Hey,
going to
nothing
hardcore
wrong with
shows
that.
and getting punched in
Yeah.
the face, going to hardcore shows on the weekend and then coming back and doing
What
that.
was that? All I want is to be with you. Toe the Wet
It's like a
Sprocket.
trigger. It's a trick,
Walk on the ocean.
and Edie Brickell and all, all
Yeah.
that mishmash of sounds. But the thing that I liked was that I think with Inverter, you guys kept current during COVID, right? You were able to.
We
The album
did.
came out last year, right? The
I
Avalanche.
like how you brought this. Yeah, how you're getting me back on track here.
Oh, I'm good like that.
You've done this before.
I've had the gift. I have the gift.
Yeah,
we got to reel it in. Yeah,
Yep.
your album that came out last year. What was it called? Avalanche.
Another Avalanche. Yeah, so that's the third full length album. Yeah, it's, I don't know, 8-9 tracks. I'm not vehemently against EPs in a way. I don't know. I always get disappointed when there's a band I love and they put out an EP. I'm like, oh, come on,
guys.
Like Prong, one of my favorite bands.
4 more songs, guys. Come on.
Yeah, Prong, one of my favorite bands. And I talked to Tommy about it. Put out an EP recently. Like, oh man, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but I always want a full length because it's kind of a tease.
Yeah.
And so many hardcore bands, more so than metal bands, put out the EPs or a 3-song CD. I'm like, dude, it's just
but 7 inches back in the day. That's what it was. 7 inches back in the day.
I know.
Like 7 inches.
And time and money and all that. And believe me, when you record an album, as we did Full Circle, another Avalanche, you piss away a lot of money and time to do a full length. Yeah. We go in there each time with, initially 15, 20 rough songs. And before we record, we start whittling things down, like, cut the fat. This one can wait for another time, or throw this one in the circular file, being the trash can. We have so many songs we've written that have never seen the light of day. And whatever as the Macho Man Randy Savage would say, the cream of the crop.
The cream of the crop.
Whatever's the cream of the crop, in our estimation, ends up on the album, which is not easy to pick through. So when COVID hit, it was weird at first, but we had started recording some stuff before it got crazy. And during it, decided to kind of be safe and finish the rest of it. We had gotten the drums all tracked at Powerhouse Studios, up in Lunenburg, Mass. Jamie Locke we recorded with, to give him a plug. Talk about being in good hands. He did Prong's Beg to Differ album. He did some of the early, I forget which Madball album, Madball, Obituary, VOD, Fury of 5, all the New Kids on the Block albums, which is kind of funny. So as I'm yelling my head off in the studio, you can't see it, but behind me, there's all these New Kids platinum plaques as I'm screaming about them.
You didn't take them off, turn them around so they don't look at you.
And all these. So he's worked with a variety of so many different bands, but we kept going during COVID, figuring I can go and do the vocals. It would just be, once the drums are done, it's kind of just Bill and I in the studio, where I'll be yelling my parts. Bill's the devil's advocate, where if I drop some line he doesn't like, he's like, you can do better than that, or those lyrics suck, try something else. And vice versa. When he's playing guitar, I'm like, that guitar solo or that guitar riff is way too 1982. You sound like an old man. Do it over. Change better.
It over. At least the honesty is there, though. You guys can be honest.
He's blunt as heck, and I am. He's more blunt with me than I am with him.
Right.
But those kind of people, when they pay you a compliment, they mean it, instead of just polishing your knob. And so he's
brushing it along.
Yeah. But there's other times where I'm adamant if I have a certain idea. Like, for instance, we have a song, not to get into it, but there's a song called Hell Built for You. It's like one of those like juvenile relationship songs, like a cliche one, let's say. But that song was written so many times, choruses, lyrics, all that. Then in some instances, I will show up at the studio and have a completely new song and chorus because I've worked on it on my own that they've never heard. And I'll say, Bill, shut up. Let me try this for a second.
And see if it works.
And the 2 times with the 2 oddball songs in each albums, the past 2 I've done that were like the offbeat, slower songs, both times until we get the studio, the guys had never heard the new lyrics and they loved them each time. Like, that's it, keep it. So some of these songs not only are rewritten 40 times, but the lyrics, the choruses are done over so many times. I listen back and it's a completely different song, the original demos, like lyrics, theme, chorus, everything. So like there's a lot of rewriting over and over.
You mentioned Tommy Victor from Prong. What's your
Yes.
relationship with him? When did you first meet him?
I mean, we're not like best buds or anything, we're not like, skipping around holding hands, going down to the coffee shop or anything. There's some imagery for you. He's just a guy I really respect. Like if there's in my life, there's very few bands that have been consistently awesome that have released albums I loved.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm for
Clutch
me,
is
it's
one of
Clutch.
them.
Oh, I was just you beat me to it. I
Yeah,
was going
we've
to say
talked about
Clutch.
that.
Yeah,
Clutch could like crap on a like a shingle and press it to vinyl, and it's still going to beat out most bands.
I'd buy the 5 different variants of it. Yeah.
Oh, like I got a bunch of rare radio only Clutch stuffs. Anyway, so the Clutch, Prong, Coroner, who are back and touring soon.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe that's about it. There's some other ones in there. A Monster Magnet. Nah, they've had some crappy albums, but I love Monster Magnet. So Prong is when I was growing up, my friend's older brother, they were listening to at the time, Beg to Differ came out. And they got me into metal, Coroner, Prong, Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden's why I bought a drum set.
Yep.
And I just got hooked. And the rest is history. But with Prong, Beg to Differ, I'm like, I love the mathematical approach of it. For Dear Life, some of those tracks.
It's a completely different album than Cleansing. I mean, in Rude Awakening, those 3 albums, to me, I love those albums.
Yes.
But Beg to Differ is, and I'm always I'm a freshman at heart. I usually like the band's first album.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Like Clutch's first album, love it. Metallica's first album.
I love the first Clutch albums. Why I got into them. Yeah.
Me too. That was the tour. It was them and Monster Magnet up in Boston.
Okay.
At what do you call it? The Middle East. They were playing the Middle East. They were opening up for Monster Magnet. And quick story, I remember seeing them, and there was a group of kids, and we all know who they are, and they always showed up at shows, and they always fuck things up for everybody. That group of kids were at that show, and they started some shit with this kid, and the drummer,
John Paul Gassner,
saw what was happening, like was on the drums, looking down into the crowd, playing.
Yeah.
And saw it and stopped, put his drumsticks down, stopped completely, jumped over his drums and grabbed the kid that was being the dickhead.
Wow.
And slapped him around like he was nothing. And all of his friends just stood there and looked at it like, what the hell is this? Because what are you going to do? You're going to beat up the national act drummer of the band that everybody's there to see,
Yeah.
Not saying they didn't want to see Monster Magnet, but that to me was so prolific because I remember seeing that and going, wow, these guys are like, they're the real deal. They get it. They don't, they respect their fans enough to go to fucking fisticuffs with them.
And that's another band, that early album too. And same with Prong. They're so different. Every once in a while, a band would come along, and so many people have ripped off Prong, later on down the road, and been inspired by them. Let's say Korn admits it, Static X. There's so many bands, but both Clutch and Prong, different styles of music, but they were very inventive and different. Clutch, very quirky and bizarre, poetic even, and that's a lot of the stuff I like and try to put into some of the songs.
Yeah, I like reason. I want to listen to a song and get behind the reason of it and get behind the history of it and don't get me wrong. I'm a sucker for 80s like synth music, and I like shit like Men at Work and Adamant and that crap as well.
I love 80s stuff, man.
I mean, that's me. My wife is like, she looks at me and she's
I was,
if they only knew.
I was at Bracken's basement yesterday. Primarily him and I will write the stuff initially. And I can't play a lick of guitar, but I'll come up with a lot of the riffs too. And he picks them up immediately and puts his own flair in them. We then bring what we record to Jimmy and Jeff, bassist and drummer, and they put their own touch on things too. But you're talking about 80s stuff. I wrote this synth pop, dark, like a Typo Negative, the Talking Heads, and whoever else got together, a Human League, to write a song. Yeah, it's basically called loosely the song. It's F you, the chorus, I'm building a robot. It's about this guy who's had enough, who secretly, is building this like robot of retribution in his basement. So it's like tongue in cheek, it's humorous. But I sent it to Bill. He was like, dude, that's a hook. There's something there. So we took this synth pop thing I did. And yesterday we're trying to turn it into an Inverter song.
Oh, flip it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to give it, because you can't come out of left field with some of the stuff. But anyways, Prong, consistent albums, Tommy Victor. I'd interviewed him way back. I saw them at Jared's place in Attleboro.
Oh
and
my
did an
God.
interview with him.
Wait a minute. That was the place
The
underground.
Fire Trap. Yeah.
Dude, that was where I saw, I'm sorry. That's where I saw the $8 Quiet Riot show. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You
paid too much.
Yeah, literally. And
Yeah.
you know, Clutch played there, and I think I saw Chimera played there.
They'd have some good shows. It was kind of like
Pandaria,
bands that needed fills on off dates would go to Jared's.
Right.
You know, like where the heck's Attleboro? And it'd be a fill
Where the
date.
heck's Jared's? I remember it being next to a cemetery.
It was downtown. There was like a parking garage. I think it was formerly a bowling alley, or like you go down these stairs. It was a death trap, that place.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
When I first went there, I'm like, there's a fire here. There's no way anyone's getting out.
Yeah, because there was one door to leave in the back, I think, right?
Yes.
You go to the
yeah.
back?
I think with the bands where there was some exit or something.
I saw a scissor fight there, and I went downstairs, and the first scissor fight song, the kid in front of me got a spinning back fist here, and blood just went like everywhere. And I was like, I'm out. I was like, I went to the bar. I was like, I'll have a beer, please. I'm good. I'm wiping off all the bodily fluid like a guar.
4 wounds. Yeah. Before COVID, it was all right. Though.
Right. But yeah. Oh, you know, it was fine. You know,
there's my dog. There's my dog's
buddy. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, I got another one sleeping on the floor here. But that's the first time I really talked to Tommy. I interviewed him for WBCN for a specialty show beforehand. Nicest guy, a very intelligent guy too.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we were talking about everything from old horror movies to whatever. And then afterwards, I went to see the show and I talked to him a little bit more. And it was kind of cool being a big Prong fan. He's like, they did a last song. This one goes out to Deek. I was like, oh man, you know, like heart flutter.
I know.
Like
I've been somebody.
No, but the funny thing is, working in radio, I've interviewed all these bands from like, you know, Metallica to Robert Smith to, you know, Jack Black for the School of Rock promo tour. And it's great interviewing some of those, but bands I really respect, you know, Tommy Victor from Prong, Neil from Clutch, the times that I've met those guys or talked to them, I'm like really into it. Like these are guys I truly dig what they've done and they've influenced me. So it's like a step above in excitement. So I talked to him a bit, and I'd seen Prong many times before, Cleansing Tour and before that. And it was until years later, I don't know how the heck I reconnected with him. But mainly I was talking to him and it was over art. I can't even, my mind is a sieve when it comes to memories. But we started talking about art stuff and he saw my art and dug it. I'm like, I'll send you a piece or two. They were coming to Boston. I said, listen, I'll hand deliver them to you. So after he did his meet and greets, they were playing with Agnostic Front. I met him by the door. He brought me backstage, went up to the dressing room area. And for like 45 minutes, him and I just talked about nothing but travel and art, not even metal at all.
Yeah.
And just really easy to talk to guy. And I think maybe out of that, or already at that point, I was thinking, I want to approach this guy to see if he'd be interested in doing a song with us. And I sent him the material, a song that was very Prong influenced for all the stuff we have, called UB313. He's like, can you send me the lyrics? And I, he wants to make sure it's not like some crazy, stupid, neo-Nazi tune or something. You don't want to associate
something about burning babies or kicking puppies.
And during COVID, he recorded all his vocals from his little home studio computer rig and kept sending stuff down, and we just kind of melded, picked and choose, and added parts. It was pretty free form. I had written the lyrics, and he does the second verse, and then later he got into it enough. He's like, let me do some chorus shouts and add some stuff to the chorus. I'm like, dude, do anything you want.
Go for it. Put your stank all.
So yeah, exactly. So it's kind of a little surreal, and if he ever sees an interview, he'll be like, what a dork, fanboying out. But I mean, he's an influential guy in the scene that I highly respect.
Right. Still doing it too.
I think there's only one Prong album I don't own. And I forget which one it is, but I have all this obscure stuff from them. Just a band I love over and over. Right. And this track, anyways, UB313, talking of quirkiness. There's my dog. Is about hey, Zeus.
Zeus is loose.
Chopper. Yeah. I don't know what he's barking at. But anyways, this song is very sci-fi. It's about UB313. It's a
movie, right? It's
no, it was the remnants, or like a planet that was discovered far beyond Pluto. There's all these scientific articles.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the George Lucas TK.
Oh yeah,
whatever that
1138
or whatever. Yeah. OU812 or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's this nerdy sci-fi tune because I was sick of writing all these, like, none of our songs are tough guy songs, really. They're a little tongue in cheek if you look
Oh
at
yeah,
the
they
lyrics.
are. Yeah.
Almost making fun of that kind of stuff. So UB313 is about the future after the earth is burnt out because humans are basically a virus and abusing this planet and screwing ourselves over, like we're doomed. It's the last survivors, the last one on his way out to some other solar system, hoping there's something out there to start anew. But it's basically this peppy song that's really doom laden, about, oxygen supplies are running, it's basically the song of almost no hope in a way.
Right.
About this lone survivor, in the ship traveling out to nowhere because the earth's been burnt out and swallowed by the sun.
I got to re-listen. I mean, I had it on play last year when it first came out. I had it on replay because that's what I do when I get when music comes out. It's usually got a 3-week shelf life with me over and over and over forever. Like, because people go, "What are you listening to?" And I was like, "New Inverter." They're like, "What else?" I like Inverter. They're like, "What else?" I go, "Listen, dude, you're gonna ask me the same question. I'm gonna give you the same answer. I'm just listening to this album over and over because I like it."
Yeah.
And then it leaves me and something else comes in, hardcore or whatever. Were you guys able to? Did you say you started booking shows for this year?
Yeah. Well, it's weird because we like shows booked so far in advance that we have some, but we never know like what's gonna happen with COVID, and even playing that we played Toad's Place recently with Hail the Horns, which is members of Fear Factory.
Yeah.
Mark Rizzo.
Was that the Dead by Wednesday show?
Yes, yeah. Opus from Dead by Wednesday, they played, but Tony from Static X and all these other cool. Cutthroat Conspiracy from Texas, really cool band to check out. And I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, maybe I got COVID from that show, even though I was pretty damn careful, hiding behind my merch booth, wearing a mask, and it sucks the fun out of doing some of these shows we've done because I almost like hide out until we go on stage until I scream at people. And
right.
It's like, you can't, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't want to be in a cocoon and hibernate and do nothing. So we've booked all these shows way back that some of these dates are starting to come up. It's like, man, I hope things start getting better. Or, like it always feels like things are up in the air. Way down in June, God, I hope things get better when talks, because do you remember the band Dog Fashion Disco?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So through a weird,
wow, they still doing it? They're still
soon.
Damn, that's been years, man. That's
and they want to do
Disco is like 90s.
They want to do a bunch of shows with us.
Wow,
through the grapevine.
That was
because we're also quirky and weird.
Yeah, those, there are certain bands from the 90s that I call them like the coal chamber type of bands where it was you either got it or you didn't. And I listened to everything. I had friends that were strictly hardcore who were like, "How can you listen to that shit?" And I go, No. Calm down. At one point in your life, you didn't listen to hardcore. You listened to the Beatles, or you listened to whatever, Jethro Tull, or you listened to the Sesame Street album, whatever the hell it was. So don't preach to me that you're all hard. And
my first album ever was the Ghostbusters soundtrack on cassette.
Really?
Oh. Yeah, and then Rocky IV soundtrack I bought with my own money at Caldor.
Mine was my cousin gave me a copy of Kiss Alive 2.
Oh, okay.
Because she had 2 copies of it. But then I think I bought a lot of 7-inches, like early on. Like I bought a lot of like the Police and Billy Squier and whatever. I had like stacks and stacks of, because they would come out one song and that's what was played on the radio. So I'd buy that. But I think the first album that I ever bought, what came out first? It was either Michael Jackson's Off the Wall record.
That was earlier than Thriller, yeah.
And that was before Thriller.
Yeah,
that was probably the first one I bought. And then it was like
a good album.
And great album. It had
anything from the Police, fantastic.
Oh God, yeah. It was for me. And then my favorite album that I got, that for me it was the album that I have consistently either tried to replace it or find a better version of it, is Def Leppard's Pyromania. I mean,
yeah, it's a great album.
I got that one year for my birthday, and it was just like monumental. I remember I got Pyromania, and I got a couple He-Man figures.
Oh yeah, I still got all those in storage. I think the first album, what I consider my first real album in terms of metal, I bought Maiden Somewhere in Time.
Oh yeah,
which is still, because that, I'd say my favorite album.
I was gifted those by my cousin. Grew up in Cape Cod, and she was a big metalhead. And my mother, I grew up strict Catholic, so my mother was always like, "Hey, this is,
Yeah.
like Wasp,
The devil,
really?
the
Yeah.
devil's music. Yeah.
Oh yeah, shout
And
out
it's
to the
funny.
devil.
It's funny when you look back how a lot of those people now only now realize how tame and intelligent and historic some of those bands were. Like Iron
Absolutely.
Maiden is basically educational opera.
Of course, man. It's like listening to this syncopated, in time reasoning, trying to figure out the lyrics are amazing. The bass
Oh,
playing is
my
superb.
cousin who grew up in Jewish City used to make fun of me for listening to Maiden, being a devil worshiping metalhead.
Of course.
And 15 years later, he's buying the albums to love it. He's like, you were right. This stuff is pretty amazing. And my father too. My father is very open-minded. Like I grew up with he had a huge vinyl collection of, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Zeppelin, all that stuff. That's what I grew up listening to. He was always blasting with the system. But even when he listened to Maiden, he's like, wow, this is pretty amazing in terms of instrumentation. And, it's like,
right.
You can't go wrong with Iron Maiden. And that's like Nico from Maiden's why I went out and played drums. Somewhere in time I heard it. This is incredible. I saved up all my money mowing lawns. And with like 150 single dollar bills, it was all like almost in ones. I bought a used kit, a Ludwig, off a friend of mine who was kind of upgrading and started playing drums. Then I still play drums. I played for like 30 years or longer than I'd like to admit.
I started in 87 playing drums, and I still have my original set. I never bought another set. It's a 1987 Pearl Export that I bought from Gordon's Music in Southbridge, Massachusetts, from Bob. Bob at Gordon's Music. The guy's probably still there. And yeah, for me, it was listening to Bill Ward from Black Sabbath.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get asked that a lot when I talk to drummers. What are your influences? And Ted Parsons from Prong. Although I was friends with him on Facebook at one point in time, and he did a cleaning and unfriended me. I was like, oh, tear. It's like, no, because we talked article. It was one of those like, I don't know the guy. I get it. He's cleaning house. I'm like, oh man, so one day I'm like, oh, we're not friends anymore. I must have said something. I don't say offensive things online. So Ted Parsons from Prong, Fife Ewing from Therapy.
Oh God! Oh, what a drop! That's a rare drop because
dude, he's amazing.
My first introduction to Therapy was getting. Do you remember this? We used to get these promotional videotapes in the mail with one video from each band, and I remember the Nurse, the Nurse album.
Nurse. That's when I got into them.
Nurse. So it was Here I Am, Motherfucker.
Yeah, I heard them at Headbangers Ball. That song. And I went, and they were so different. That's an age when I was very impressionable. If it was on Headbangers Ball, it was like the stamp of approval already. I heard that, went out, bought the album. It was like one of those like super savers. And that was the start of me being obsessed with Therapy. They're still doing their thing, and they still write some really good stuff.
They just did a reunion show, not a reunion, but they did an anniversary show, I think, recently, or an anniversary tour overseas. But I got to see them. The first tour, I saw them twice. The first tour I saw them on, they played, they opened for the Rollins band over at Lupo's in Providence. And then they came back around and they played Club Babyhead on their own. And that was for the EP that came out with, what is it going? Not going.
Hats Off to the Insane.
Hats Off to the Insane. Yeah. The white cover with all the little squiggly shit on it. I saw him I only saw him twice, but yeah, that's a rare. That I've never heard anybody mention.
Oh, he's so good.
Oh, he's amazing.
And the band was different without him. They're still good. I still like them a lot, but very changed band. His beats were very so. So I mean, it would be Fife Ewing, Danny from Biohazard.
Yeah,
the bounce he has to things. If you listen to the first Inverter album, there's a couple of those.
Oh yeah, you could. Yeah,
read Biohazard, like off the China, a couple parts.
Yeah,
that's all Danny from Biohazard.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think of a couple others. I mean, there's so many of them. Those are probably the bigger influential ones. Nico being maybe
I would say
now, but
like
number one back then.
I hear also listen to Inverter. I hear Snapcase too. I hear some Snapcase.
Oh, we were going to cover, or we actually, there's a clip somewhere on our Facebook page, Inverter Boston on Facebook, of us messing around the studio doing Caboose. Yeah. And Jeff Lawn, he likes them too. He brought that up. He's like, we should cover something. We never agree on covering songs, so we'll try them out. We'll get them almost down and get bored of them, and we never play any covers live.
Right.
And the reasoning being, Bill goes, he's like, dude, we got enough good songs we wrote that we like.
Right.
Why
play somebody else's
from the list
stuff
to play someone else's music?
Right.
I'm like,
Well,
So
I think
we've brought some
if
crazy
you can
ideas.
work hard and turn people onto your own stuff, that's the point. That's the
Well,
point.
it's very rewarding. And Bill says this all the time. He's like, listen, we used to do the Rage Against the Machine stuff and be paid big money and play to big crowds.
Right.
And he says, I would rather do the original stuff any day, play to smaller crowds and win them over and see them getting into it.
Right. Well, every band goes through that. I mean, Scissor Fight was the same way, starting off, just doing small shows, small gigs, and then eventually it steamrolled, and they put out stuff that people could either get behind or like, I don't like this. This is no, I'm not gonna. But they're fans. You know how Clutch fans are and Scissor Fight fans are. They're dedicated. They're just dominating. It's like the ultimate fan. I always felt was Slayer fans, because Slayer fans just they're all about Slayer. Then nothing. When you talk to them about stuff, you're like, so what do you think about the new Metallica record? It's good, but it's not Slayer,
I think you have a point there.
Yeah,
a lot of them seem to be almost like narrowcast and one or two bands.
Oh yeah, it's like a cult. Like it's
almost like that's the metal version of people being obsessed with either Dream Theater, Tool. It's like the speed metal version of all that.
Right.
That
Rush,
Rush being the biggest case, of course.
Right. Proggies. So I want to touch a little bit on something else that, because you're a very interesting person. When I first met you, we talked a lot about music and we talked about your art, but I want to talk about what you do for the tiny houses. Tell me about how you got involved and what you do with it's called Relax Shacks.
Yeah, Relax Shacks is my website. I mean, that started as a blog where I was just obsessed with small structures and the affordability of them.
Yep.
I mean, long story short, to go way back, I grew up in a pretty small house in a town that didn't have a lot of small houses. Parents were school teachers and always worked. I shared a bedroom with my brother until basically high school and never really had a problem with it, while all my other friends had these giant houses. And, tiny houses always made sense to me. What can I afford now instead of like taking out a huge loan or wasting all my money down the road? And I don't know, I was just a fan of the stuff growing up. My father used to take us to what's called Dudd's Village in Madison, Connecticut, this seasonal beach cottage community with these tiny houses. We'd get donuts after church, drive around and just sightsee all these little summer cabins, which I thought were the coolest. They're still there. Yeah. So that got me into it as well. My father was a woodworking teacher. So combine all that with building, being a kid, a love of forts, stuff that's small and affordable, and it brings me to where I am today. I've been running that blog for 12, 13 years.
You take it to the next level, though. You take it to the next level, because what I've seen you do is a lot of your materials that you use are recycled or salvage. That's it.
Reused. Yeah. We actually have a full-length documentary film coming out. If you go to the website boxtruckfilm.com, it's been accepted to some film festivals coming up. It's called Box Truck Film, A Reuseful Home. And we took a out of commission U-Haul truck, and for my buddy, made it to a full-time dwelling with a kitchenette, shower, bathroom, all with found, dumpster dived, and reused materials.
That's awesome.
So it's a film coming out. It's a full-length film, and we actually had the theme song in the beginning of it was custom written by one of the guys from Anti-Flag.
Anti-Flag, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the punk band. And the film came out awesome. Like, I'm really proud of it. It's going to be, we have the Ocean State Film Festival in Maryland, in fact, is going to be the fest that debuts it coming up.
Right.
And a couple others will be screened at.
So it's safe to say that you can literally see life in someone else's junk.
Oh yeah, dude. During COVID, I made so much money finding stuff on the side of the road, fixing it, rewiring it, or just painting it or cleaning it off and reselling it. Like, insane. Like, I had one of my best years ever shifting gears. I couldn't travel and teach workshops around the US anymore,
right?
Which I do a lot of. And my brother and I, if there's anyone that's a sidekick, it's my brother, Dustin. He'll help me with stuff. We've done workshops all around the US. We've done it twice in Australia, been out to Hong Kong. It's kind of crazy, from building forts in my backyard to traveling to Australia and making good money in a free trip. Like, what?
You were down here, right? Weren't you down here in North Carolina a couple of years ago?
I've done 5 North Carolina workshops.
Okay.
In the Wilmington area. Yeah.
Which is kind of teaching people how to build their like 1 to 2 person building.
Yeah, I mean, it's a resurgence of, people wanting to use their hands again. And how do you build affordably?
Right.
A lot of people are just scared to jump in. So we'll teach them how to build stuff, how to do framing.
Right.
We'll always have some like collective project for each workshop. Each one's different. I do a lot of tree houses. My attention span's super short. As you'll notice, I jump around in subjects and get carried away.
Sure.
So tree houses are kind of my jam because they take shorter amounts of time. It's just me sometimes. And, you finish one, you're on to the next. Right. So I'm obsessed with tiny houses, tree houses. That's Relax Shacks is kind of that focus. That's the name of my YouTube channel too. Relax Shacks spelt DOT.com, which is done well for me. It landed me just for one season. I hosted an HGTV series.
Yeah.
I was the designer, producer, and host for Tiny House Builders, it was called, which technically was the first tiny house show out there.
Yeah, but before HGTV, all the other ones started to pop
it was
up
filmed before the other ones. HGTV slept on it and didn't release it till the other one came out. I'm like, so everyone's like, oh, was it like a copy? I'm like, no, we actually did it before that other one existed, but whatever. I mean, working for them was the worst.
Do you find that these tiny houses are also being used as like Airbnbs or vacation type of?
Yes. Yeah. We built two of them, two different tree houses, big ones in Seattle that are both Airbnb stays.
Wow. What do you think
Washington?
What do you think the attraction is to it? It's just like a reclaiming a childhood, or?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like, have you ever talked to anyone who mentioned tree houses? Like, harumph, I hate tree houses. Like, they're universally loved. It's it's your own kind of, space where you can, it harkens back to childhood. It's your own little private space that's whimsical. It's different. It's fun. It kind of breaks the rules. Like you're in a structure that's in a freaking tree.
Yeah,
it's like look out the windows and there's branches waving in the wind. It's kind of relaxing.
It's like going camping. I mean, there's an organicness. I hate saying that, but there is an organic.
Yeah.
With getting back to just getting rid of everything, turning your phone off, throwing your iPad into the corner. Grab the dogs, grab some tents. I'm talking about camping. I'm not talking about we're going to rent a cottage this weekend and we're going to get some wine and some cheese and we're going
we used to call it cheating camping.
Champing. But I would
glamping.
Glamping, that's it. But glamping. I mean, I'll go I'll go hang out in a yurt, but I'd much rather have a tent, near a pond where I go fishing and grab the dogs and something to drink, a couple stogies and just get back at it. And
I think you touched upon it right there. Tree houses and all these other structures, you're living in such a small environment. It really ties you more so to nature.
Right.
And being up a tree. And if you go way back, some people like at a Freudian level or whatever, they're like, well, as we have possibly descended from monkeys, there's a sense of safety being, our ancestors would hide in trees for safety from predators. And like, maybe there is something in your DNA that's attracted to, like, kids love climbing trees. Why?
Right. Why?
I still climb trees.
Get up.
Yeah.
Get high.
I climb them for a living. It's a different vantage point too.
Right. Have you ever watched, have you like a 4-year-old jump off the stairs? It's the greatest thing in the planet. It's like they're jumping out of an airplane because of the height level. They're like, yay, they just do it because of the thrill. And I think you're, as far as the stuff that you end up doing, you seem to pull a lot from just what is around you. For instance, so I want to talk a little bit about your art because your art, my wife paints and she does acrylics and watercolors, and she's more of a traditionalist. She does like birds and flowers and stuff. Your stuff, how would you describe what it actually what it is? Would you call it like rural graffiti? Would you call it like...
it's definitely like street graffiti based. It's funny as you look back, with Facebook now, you look at your feeds when stuff comes back up. There'll be an art piece I did seven years ago. I'm like, I wish I could delete that permanently from the world of, the internet because it's so terrible.
It's funny you say that, but I'm actually on your Facebook page. Can you see this?
Yeah, there's me with the face and the monocle. Oh, yeah.
All right. So I don't know if we would pull this up here, but we should be able to. All right. Here's a good one.
That's my old studio. Yeah.
So that's your old studio there.
So all that stuff in that picture there is made from like scraps, garbage, found paints, like dresser drawers, sides of whatever. It's except that one spaceman piece on that in the corner that has a skull. That Dave Tree did that one.
Dave from Tree.
Yeah, he had an art show. I bought that one off him. Thought it was cool. This is a giant panel on some plywood I did in my other studio that was a storefront, just messing around. That one I kept. It's actually in my art studio I built in my backyard right now as just a wall piece. So it's very like over the top. Yeah, I mean, street graffiti meets whatever. There's so many awesome. That's not me. That's
in your Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, John Bergerman, who does very cartoonish stuff, who I think is kind of fun. So yeah,
let's see if I want to pull one more.
I mean, I grew up total nerd, you know, reading comic books, piles and piles of comic books. So that kind of stuff always interested me. But
controlled chaos is what it's kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's the studio again. It's just like stuff everywhere. Lots of color, lots of lines. I'm a big fan of going to like, you know, punk rock bathrooms where it's just
God, yes. You know what I always wanted to see? There was two things I always wanted to do. So the first thing is when I get into my forever home and I build a bar or I build a wall, a man, not a man cave, but like a man shed. I want to take all my concert tickets that I have, because I saved all my concert tickets, and just make either a top shelf of it for a bar or a table or a wall or something. And then the other thing I always wanted to do is wall of stickers. I must have over 5,000 stickers.
Yeah.
And I've, you know, at one point I put them all over my drums, and then I redid my drums over and pulled all of the wraps off and put all new wraps on it. But I wanted to do something along the lines, because you always see them on refrigerators and the side of, you know, signs or something. You pull up to a stop sign, there's stickers. But I have all those are the two things I want to do. And I think it was just a matter of, they're too good to not be shown off. It's especially with concert tickets, it's your life. A point in time where you went to something that mattered to you and there's a story behind it. The stuff that you come up with, is it a constant? Are you constantly firing stuff off and designing and drawing?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just ADD, energy, and caffeine. I got notebooks. I mean, if you to the side of me here up in the upper shelves, I have like piles of notebooks up there that are just sketchbooks with like random chaotic doodles and ideas. And every once in a while I'll pull them down and go through them to rehash some of the ideas.
Right.
You know, I'm a total bookworm. I'm reading nonstop. And even with the Inverter stuff, we try to bring a level of some intelligence to the lyrics.
Yeah.
So there's some big words and cryptic references in there as well to both cinema, literature, and that's probably influenced by bands I love, like Iron Maiden, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those guys who reads a lot of magazines too, and dog ears pages, so I can go back for the ideas. Like, why did I dog ear this? Okay, I love this.
Okay, that's why I want to use that for something, or as
for
an
design,
idea.
and just from ideas, or you know, poetic passages in something. I'm like, I could take that and craft it into a different way, into a lyric for Inverter. There's a lot of movie references, like I said, too. Some of them not so profound. We were loosely working on a track, just a fun one, which is Eat Lightning, Crap Thunder. You know, so
and that's that.
a Rocky reference.
Yeah, Rocky.
You know,
right. Yeah.
I love the highbrow stuff and the more profound stuff, but I like, you know, stupid Rocky films. They're awesome.
Yeah. For me, it was Rocky and wrestling. Those were the two. Like Rocky and wrestling. Everybody I hung out with was like, everybody was or they were doing like, let me tell you, hey brother, man. and Jake the Snake and all the, all the stuff, I think it was because it was charismatic and it was over.
Well, they're living cartoon characters, basically, like it's
living action figures, almost like
action figures. Yes.
Yeah. Like these two guys are beating the hell out of each other, and they have these great catchphrases. It's like watching any movie in the mid 80s that features
and taking the one-liners.
Yeah, what like the Sylvester Stallone, or the Arnold Schwarzenegger, stick around,
let off some steam, Bennett.
I don't shop here, just all that stuff.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because just last night I showed my son, we watched The Running Man. He did for the first time.
Great.
It's got so many good lines. Yeah.
Oh God.
Sub-Zero, he was a real pain in the neck.
Yeah. The what is it? What
happened to Buzzsaw? He had to split.
Richard Dawson. They cast him perfectly. Like Richard Dawson.
He's awesome. Sensational.
Yeah. I was always a big fan of the RoboCop movies too, because they always had that.
Stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
See, in the spirit of, and I'm wearing the white zombie shirt, in the spirit of that, because I've interviewed Rob a couple of times, and instead of talking about his music, I remember the last Exorcista was an album I loved.
I love it too.
And when I interviewed him, it wasn't so much about his current music. I was asking like, okay, this clip was from Dawn of the Dead. This clip was like, where are your movie clips from? And he had a tough time remembering some of them, but we got into horror movies for a while.
You want to do a hard dive and to figure it out? Buzz Oven. I don't know if you listen to Buzz Oven.
I remember them. Yeah.
Okay, if you want to figure out, take their first 2 records, man. And the second one particularly, Soar, and there are so many movie clips in it, and everything from Full Metal Jacket to Johnny Got His Gun to there's some Harold and Maude is in there, but you're like, what the hell? Because they loop and they do stuff backwards and they layer stuff on top. So it's like it's like the moaning, screaming from the girl hanging on the hook from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But then they also have like the Full Metal Jacket, Joker.
I love that stuff because if used correctly, it kind of enhances a song.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And and then later you'll see it like, oh, that's where that's from. I forget. I think it was the Overkill. I love Overkill. That's one of the first bands I ever saw live. Yeah. They're just so good. Interviewed Bobby.
Best frontman ever. Bobby is
nicest guy ever. Like very humble.
Him. Yep. I
think it was what was the UHO? What was the WFO? What was that album? When it had Gasoline Dream. WFO was called, I think.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the one with Kilgore where they did the Walk. They did Walk by Pantera, but that was Extreme Wrestling.
I think it was WFO. It was not.
You're thinking WFO. I'm thinking WCW.
It had the spray paint green logo on it.
Yep, I remember that.
I think on that album they have one part where they have this big thrash part. All of a sudden things just stop and melt, and there's this clip that comes out and goes, "Looks like you've been up to the devil's business," and then boom, and it comes back, and I'm like, oh my! Like when I first heard that, I'm like, such a great clip. It almost gave me goosebumps because it just works so well.
Yeah, that's
on Horoscope on Bare Bones. That
Bare
track,
Bones.
that one?
Yes, I do.
The piano part.
Yep.
And at one part they're going hard, and all of a sudden the track again, like a record, slowing down, scratches. Yeah. And just the piano part melts, and it's so haunting. And then boom, they come back in tight as ever with the thrash part. It's amazing.
I love bands like that, and I have to say the one record, it was more of, it wasn't pulling from movies, but it was them doing something completely different and creating their own thing, was the Queens of the Stone Age Songs for the Deaf record, where it was a radio station.
Yeah.
You listen to it, and you listen from that to start to finish, and it's like someone's in a car driving, turning the radio back.
I interviewed Josh a couple times. Good dude.
Great guy. Yeah.
Huge. He's like 6'5", 6'6".
Oh yeah. One of the times that I saw them was the rated R tour when they played up in Boston with Vast. One of my favorite bands.
I probably was at that show too. Yeah.
Yeah. It was what were the 2 clubs? It was that.
Was it at Avalon?
It was Avalon or Axis. It was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they also had what was the other one near it? Not Jake
Karma Club
bar. Karma.
Yeah, I went to Karma there a few times.
And Bill's Bar was next to. They had 4 clubs in a row on one street, which was, and working at BCN, I was literally basically in the building next to all those. So I'd get off my shift, run over to the clubs, working radio at the time. I had my permanent name at the door for some of them.
And just go in and
exchange for me plugging their shows all the time. And it was kind of cool to see some of these bands. And just even at Bill's Bar, a tiny club, I saw some bands before they blew up, mainstream ones where they do industry only showcases.
Yep.
Mama Kin was the other club there too.
Mama Kin's was I saw a couple. I saw like Into Another there and a couple other bands. I remember first seeing you. We didn't speak, but I first saw you on stage when you introduced Scissor Fight at Bill's Bar back in like.
Oh, you know what? There's a clip of that on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, I filmed it. I was the one who filmed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some extreme foul lange. I looked
back. Oh yeah. Your mother, your grandmother and stuff.
I weigh like 90 pounds in that.
We all did. Yeah. I actually have, I'll send it to you. I think I posted it. So I did an interview with Scissor Fight in the bathroom of that show. But I interviewed Jarvis in the bathroom, the bass player.
Yeah.
I interviewed Jarvis in the
Man.
bathroom.
Yeah.
And then is that right? I think I interviewed Jarvis in the bathroom, and then he was with some girl, and then I interviewed the guitarist and Jay, and dude, it goes downhill so fast.
Those guys are crazy.
Completely downhill real fast. But
I had Scissor Fight over way back when I lived in an apartment over for dinner, and they came over where I cooked for them, which was awesome. Interesting. And they just came because I got to be good friends with them. They're great guys.
They are normal guys, but larger than life on stage. Iron Lung was nothing outside of the club like he was in the club. If you go in the club, animated on stage, just out
Well,
of
he'd go on
control,
stage talking about nothing
chaotic.
but beer and pyromania, and off
Yeah,
stage, he had his PhD or was writing
yeah.
his thesis on, I mean, a very
And he was
intelligent, very,
shoreman too. He was a fisherman.
yes, very well-read guy. I went to a bunch of parties with him after shows. I remember once sitting down in someone's apartment. He's at the kitchen table and just listening to a Madonna album and just getting so into it and talking about the intricacies of why it was one of the later Madonna albums where she got all like techno-ish.
Oh,
And
so he
he just,
wasn't doing like Reservoir Dogs,
but he was just pulling it apart and just
yeah,
really getting, stuff you wouldn't expect. He was like, loved Madonna,
yeah.
which I thought made him more interesting.
I know. And these people are just humans. They're just human beings. But
Yeah,
sometimes you
he has kind of
connect.
disappeared, unfortunately.
Yeah, but the new lineup is phenomenal. I mean,
Oh, it's
live
cool. Yeah.
is, I've they just do stuff live. I mean, we could do a whole show on Scissor Fight. I mean,
Yeah, that's another one of those bands that consistently has put out good stuff,
yeah,
And
still.
on their latest album, that one track I really love, and even I played it for my kids, and they're like, it's catchy. Dump Fight.
Oh, Dump Fight. Yeah, that one's good.
The story it paints is great.
It's
and that's like, again, with Inverter, the stuff we do, I want to tell some like outlandish, weird story about things. We're working on new stuff now, and I haven't talked to, not that it's an exclusive, I haven't talked about this to anyone except Bill when we write the stuff. So a lot of the stuff is kind of going a little bit, we're incorporating on the live stage. If you've seen photos, we now have these like plywood stand-ups of these graffiti creatures.
I've seen those.
It's getting almost white zombie-ish, let's say, or one of those bands. We get compared to Souls at Zero, White Zombie, Cold Chamber, Static X,
all
Downset. Yeah, so it's a lot of 90s influences. But we have this new track. It's called Hydraulic Killing Grip. And it's about
killing grip.
Yeah. And it's basically about kind of influenced by the movie Chopping Mall.
Oh, I love that horror movie.
It was just on earlier today.
It's the robot that goes around and everybody's trying to hide from it. And
it's so cheesy. Yeah. But it's basically one of these futuristic dystopian tales of in the future, it's illegal. Well, basically now it's illegal to be poor. And in the future, when the tax collector cometh, it's not in the way of bills or liens against your house. It's a killing machine coming for you, time to pay or else. It's about this, these programmed like creatures
that come in like Daleks or something.
I've seen too many Terminator movies and what is that? Kirk Douglas, what was the movie? Saturn 3 or something like that.
Saturn 3. And then there was, what was the other one? The, that just had an anniversary.
Hardware. You ever see that?
Hardware was another one. Virus was another one.
Virus was great.
Yep.
Those are the movies I love. And like, they're in my brain. So it's kind of, but it's almost, it's a violent, but a humorous take on it a little bit.
Right. I always wanted to see a band do an entire album based on John Carpenter's The Thing. That was like, I always wanted
ever.
It is. It's one of my top 5 movies of all time. I mean, for me, it's
I'd agree. Yeah.
For me, it's like Jaws, Halloween, Star Wars, and then I mean, it's just one of those. And The Thing, and I always wanted to see a band just take that whole album, that whole concept and talk about it, but not in a way that is in order, but just kind of mishmash all over the place. And I don't know, maybe I'll have to start a band. I haven't been in a band.
Well, it's funny you mentioned, because I've been toying with the idea of doing some kind of futuristic with this new album we're working on, some dystopian futuristic thematic album where it's all a concept album. I'm like, I don't want to get that artsy, and it's tough to string those together because it also limits you.
Right. Yeah, it does.
Thematically, when you might have some great song that has nothing to do with all the other ones, you don't want to like throw it away because like this could be the tune that people love.
But you can also tailor the music to whatever you're going to be working on. So you might have great riffs, you might have great bass lines and drums, and then you're like, okay, we're going to tweak the vocals of this just a little bit so it coincides with the running theme of it.
Yeah, we're no huge band or anything, so it's like, but it's one of those things you keep in mind. Like you don't want to alienate the fans you have with getting too artsy or changing your sound too much. But at the same time, because bands left and right get criticized, even Clutch, when they changed up and went bluesy, there were people that hated it and other people that loved it. We've written a couple songs recently that very much so have almost like a Clutch groove 70s vibe, even with some James Brown crap in it, but with the growly vocals over it.
Awesome.
And I'm saying to Bill, I'm like, I'm not sure how these will go over, but I don't care because I'm really loving it.
You can always also do hidden tracks on stuff too. Like
Of course,
Faith No More was good with that. Faith No More, one of my favorite bands, would always throw in a little, and then they came out with the album, with the covers album. They're doing Easy, and they were doing,
which is great.
Let's Lynch the Landlord. And I mean, it was do what you want to do, and then find a place to put it somewhere where you're like,
I mean, we're always gonna throw some heavy stuff. It's funny, the first album's almost hip hop ish meets Madball, let's say. It's got a weird approach.
That's
Second one got heavier than through the album. We're trying to go for like write some hooks that are memorable and that people dig, instead of just shouting these gang chorus hardcore things that are 2 syllables every time.
Oh yeah.
I've never been as much of a huge fan about that. And excuse me, it just keeps changing over time. You listen to different stuff, you get influence. I listen to a lot of jazz, 70s stuff, stoner doom,
which
stuff.
is huge.
Scott sent me that Thunderbird Divine album, which
amazing.
That's in my car.
Yeah.
I just got the new Kings and Liars album.
Mine's coming. Yeah.
And
another great band.
On the other
side, Buzzard Canyon put out a new one too.
Yeah, I haven't listened to that, but
it's good.
Salt of the Earth puts out some great stuff. And then I bought on the other side of that this band up from Montreal. You should talk to them at some point in time. Scarfold. They're like brutal hate breed Madball style hardcore, big breakdowns, huge drum sound. And I've talked to those guys a bunch and ordered, like, they just put out a new album through 454, whatever that label.
Yep.
And I just ordered it up from Canada. It came in the mail, and I've been blasting that in my car because it's so barbaric and heavy.
I love it. I love that, and I go down the rabbit hole every now and then where it's nothing but Bad Brains and Cro-Mags and Killing Time and Underdog. Yeah. There's nothing. It's not. You can't pull me away from anything else. And then all of a sudden, somebody drops a new album, like Alice Cooper or somebody. I was like, okay, I'm only listening to this for 3
Judas Priest. I've been listening to a lot of old Judas Priest lately too. A band I never liked growing up for whatever reason.
Me too. I never got into them. I really didn't like them because it was the time of Turbo. Turbo had come out. And I was like, this sucks.
I'm your Turbo lover.
And now I love it. And then
that song is pretty fun though. The video is hilarious.
It's hilarious, but that album is, we don't, it's pretty bad. But then you get into like the other stuff that comes out down the road with Painkiller,
Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith.
Yeah,
that's what I've been listening to in my car. Defenders of the Faith,
Stained Class, and all the early stuff. Absolutely, man.
But it's weird. Like, it's all come back. Like, I had Screaming for Vengeance way back in the day on cassette. Never dug it. I didn't like the recording quality of it because I liked the newer stuff at the time. When Vulgar Display of Power, Pantera came out, the drums were so crisp.
Yep.
Even Overkill,
even on tape, even on cassette, it sounded good.
It was a whole new level of recording. So some of that old stuff just sounded too, the drums, instead of crack, they went boing, like some of the old Led Zeppelin stuff. Yeah. I never liked that drum sound as much. I want that crack, that pop. So it was tough for me to listen to that stuff. But now I go back, and at flea markets, I'm buying all the Priest albums and just like listening to them like crazy. Dio, another one. I never liked Dio growing up.
Me neither. Now, and then I got into him like a while back.
Why didn't I go see him those 15 times? This
I know.
Is awesome.
I think the person that was my pusher, my drug dealer for music was Columbia House, because Columbia House was, you take a penny and you put a penny on the thing, you mail it in, and you get like 20 cassettes. And I was getting Metallica and Judas Priest,
I remember
Motorhead, and
if you didn't send things back fast enough, they'd send you that album of the month, which is always something to liquidate.
Sucked.
I remember being pissed, like, stop mailing me Rat 8191. Stop.
For me, it was the Cars. They always sent me a Cars.
I love the Cars. It's like, actually,
me too.
I go through the history of my life.
I didn't need the same cassette over and over again. Yeah.
With the history of my life, the Cars is a top 10 band for me. That's like, and as a kid, I loved that stuff.
Same
that pop.
Yeah, me too. It was because I think it was
Columbia House.
I know, prevalent on the radio. Shout out to Columbia House.
Yeah.
You kids with your digital music, you don't know the
it was exciting
how
to get that
hard
stuff in
it
the mail.
was to sit in your car and not have 100 cassettes on the side of you, sitting next to you.
They'd always have limited selections, though. It wouldn't be like the best albums from like whatever band. It'd be like the stuff that really needed to push and move.
and no artwork or anything. It was just like a blank like cover. Like, you'd open it up and it'd be the tape on white.
Yeah.
And then inside would be like nothing. There's no fold out or anything. It was just a flip. It was like those tapes you would buy at the gas stations, like at the counter.
Almost like bootlegs, basically.
You're like, oh, I don't have that Robert Plant one. I'll buy that one. That's kind of cool.
Well,
It's got two
it's funny you
songs
mentioned
on
it.
it.
I was at Family Dollar ways back, and bands I never used to like back then, but now like now. I was bored in line and I had with this impulse buy cases of old CDs, for like $3. I'm like, oh, Quiet Riot Greatest Hits, and here Quiet Riot. I went to a bunch of shows, and instead of going in to see them, I just tailgated and partied in the parking lot. Just went into headline. So I miss seeing Quiet Riot like multiple times. Never saw them live. Amazing. Now I regret it.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Because I always thought they were cheesy and stupid. And I got that album, and it's cheesy and stupid, but genius and fun.
It is. It's that early 80s, mid 80s party mentality, rap.
And the lyrics are so stupid and unprofound, but it's fun. Dumb.
It's a party all night. Oh yeah. And
yes, that song is the
But cheesiest. What do you want to hear when you're out in the middle of like a field drinking beer with all your friends? Do you want to party all night? Or do you want to hear like, part-time lover? Or do you want to hear like,
part-time? Hey, I like that too.
I know. Yeah, but you don't want to hear it at a party though.
I always listen to that party all night, and it always bothers me. Like Kevin Dubrow, whatever. I'm like, you couldn't have like gotten a thesaurus and reworked some of these lyrics. Like in the first verse, you mentioned lampshade twice.
Yep.
And like he repeats crap. I'm like, you're in the big time here. Like you couldn't just bury it up. Like, come on, it bothers me.
The second album for them, though, was, well, not second, but the second bit, what was it? Mental Health was the big one. And then what was the second one? Condition Critical, right? Yeah, Condition Critical. I think they just wrote Condition Critical in like a week or a couple of days because the record company wanted them to put something out because they were the hottest thing.
Oh, that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, them and Ozzy and that time period. So they were just like, we'll talk about Slick Black Cadillac. We'll talk about our Cadillac. Let's talk about, whatever the hell we want,
I've talked about this with people before. What really happens, I feel, is a band finally gets signed. Let's say like Hatebreed, who I used to see forever.
Me too.
And I had the cassette demos. Jamie used to sling.
I saw Hatebreed when Jamie was fat.
I saw Hatebreed when he was like hadn't gone through puberty. I think.
Yeah, me too. All those little DIY shows and stuff.
Yes, and we played with them a couple times, and they were always so good. You knew there was something there. But here's what happens: they finally got signed to Victory and put out Satisfaction, the Death of Desire, which is like, I would say, the best Victory album ever. It was one of their bigger sellers.
Absolutely.
What it was is all those years of writing demos, they just took the best of the best that they had crafted and worked on one album. They had so much time. And I remember when the second album came out, whatever that one was, and don't get me wrong, it's awesome. It just didn't have the same impact.
Right.
Because they didn't have as much time to write all that stuff.
Well, it's the freshman,
refine it.
The freshman mentality that I look at, like VOD. I love the first VOD record. It's just amazing, and then, Imprint's incredible. The Roadrunner releases too. Anything that was coming out on Roadrunner about that time, Shelter and Typo Negative and stuff like that. But
they were a label that was respected.
They were, and I've had this conversation before, with Mike D, from Killswitch Engage and from Overcast. It was the time frame of what was coming after grunge was going to mean something. What was going to be the net, when you're from glam to grunge, and then like 93-ish, 94-ish, it was a mishmash of hardcore and Rage Against the Machine and Tool and Rollins. It was just a giant mishmash.
Some exciting experimental stuff is what it was.
Yeah, nothing sounded like each other. I didn't think that, unless it was kind of hardcore, the hardcore sound was kind of prevalent, but you had different lead singers that sounded completely different than from each other. And then all the other, like I love Rollins. I love Rollins, man. I love Black Flag. I love the early stuff. But that time frame, where they started putting out albums where it actually it sounded so different, you either jumped on board with it or you're like, this is crap. I hate this. These guys ruined this for me. But then years later, like you said, it's almost like Priest. You go back and you go, oh, wait a minute. That was a hidden gem. That is cool, because you run out of, after so many years. I mean, I've been on this planet for 50 years. I've been listening to music since I was 2-3 years old. You run out of shit to listen to. You literally run out of stuff.
It also depends that the mindset you're in when you listen to a release. Like when it comes out, I remember one that disappointed me, and now I listen back to, I'm like, oh, it's not that bad. I still like Dog Eat Dog. I was just talking to John online the other day because they're coming to Brockton to play.
Yep.
and I want to interview him to pick his brain. I'd love to get him on a track with Inverter.
Yeah.
Not that they were ever huge, but it would work. And I always respected them. They put out that follow-up to All Borough Kings, whatever called Play Games.
Yep. Yep.
And I remember when it first got, I was so mad I wanted to throw it across the room. I hated it.
Yeah. You're like, yuck, ugh, dretch.
It was sing-songy and they changed it. There wasn't much edge. I listen to it now, I'm like, oh, it's a good album.
Yeah.
When I'll be so honest as to admit, when Prong, Rude Awakening, that was the
Rude Awakening, yeah.
When that first came out,
Rude Awakening,
yeah, which had anyways, when that one first came out, that one threw me for a loop because the drums were almost drum machine drums, and I'm like,
yeah, they were like, yeah, it sounded.
I gave it some time, listened to it. I'm like, I will trust Prong, and I ended up loving it
live. That album, I saw that tour live, and it was amazing. I mean, Cleansing's kind of, it goes back to different Cleansing for me and my two, but that was Rude Awakening tour was pretty rad. I mean, you're talking about early stuff too.
Oh yeah, Beg to Differ, Prove You Wrong. I love it wasn't a full album, but the Peel Sessions.
The Peel,
put out.
Yep.
That which has a lot of stuff off Force Fed and all that. I used to drum that one all the time. Cleansing's up there. Although I always felt Cleansing, the first half of the album's genius, and then it starts falling off in the second half.
Yeah, you're right.
In terms of the songs get a little long, they're less structured. Like they needed a producer to like, all right, rein it in just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's funny to talk to Tommy, the album he hates the most, or kind of always trashes Prove You Wrong because he hates the production on it. And there's a couple of cool articles.
I like it though.
Very echoey.
It is echoey. Yeah, reverb, a lot of reverb on that one.
There's a cool article somewhere he did where he breaks down every Prong album by his favorites, and tells all the stories behind them. And it's a pretty lengthy read, but it's pretty fascinating to get into his mind in terms of what was going on.
Because it's his baby. It's his birthing. It's his stuff. So,
and again, Jamie Locke, the guy, not our producer, our recording technician, because we don't have any. We do our own producing. He's got some cool stories in terms of when they were in the studio. Ted Parsons, I guess, liked to back. When they were recording. When they were recording. Right. It was basically a big party in there. So I'm not saying he's an alkie, nothing like that. I could be taken the wrong way. No. But just cool to hear those kind of stories behind the scenes. Or Fury of Fire, those guys. He's like, there was almost every day a near fist fight in the studio with those guys amongst each other. He's like, it was chaos.
Whenever you can get behind the scenes on something, like whenever, like back in the 90s when bands would late 90s, early 2000s, when bands were working on albums and they would put out on this CD, they would put like a behind the scenes, like Alice in Chains used to do it, and then Queens of the Stone Age did it, and they would give you like the little snippets of what they were working on and how a song came to be. Now it's all over the place on YouTube. You can go and click on YouTube and watch the documentary on how they made Sympathy for the Devil, and see how, or the new Beatles one, how they made, what they were working on. I love that because it shows you the hard work and the effort that the band actually puts into, because this as a musician, I know as a musician, this shit is not easy.
Oh yeah,
it is not easy.
There's so much time. There's a great one on Number of the Beast for Maiden. If you've seen that one,
I have
Netflix
actually.
Whatever, like classic albums, I think is the
classic album.
I saw one, not so much being a Meatloaf fan, but there's the Making of Bat Out of Hell. It's awesome.
It's what was it? Someone said I forgot where I read this, but I clicked with it immediately. It was like, oh, Bat Out of Hell, the record that all early metalheads bought because of the album cover.
Seriously.
And then you listen to it and go, like, what is this
crap? Yeah.
And then later down the road, you're like I've gone down the rabbit hole with, I really love watching the early 80s, kind of late 70s, early 80s SNL live performances, the bands. I love it because it's raw and, stuff like like Blondie was on there, but Meatloaf was on there twice, and to watch him perform it's genuine. It's actually
he's living it. He got so into it.
But his band too, his backing band is tight with harmonies and with solos and with just I know we just lost him. I know he's gone. Yeah. But God, that music, even if you're not a fan of him personally, his music and also movies and stuff, just it trumps everything. It really
he was in The Squeeze with Michael Keaton. You remember that?
Michael Keaton, yes, I do. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have loved you. He gets
The-
the big
the-
statue.
yeah.
The giant like
Yeah.
statue or Empire State Building cigarette lighter or something through his chest. I forget.
And
But
then
you nailed, you hit it on the head where there's artists out there, bands like Meatloaf. Yes, some of these bands, I don't love them, don't own an album, but I respect them.
absolutely
On a level of
for what they do.
musicianship. Like,
Right.
yeah, this is incredible.
Yeah, I don't listen to their stuff over and over again, but
if it's on the radio, I'll listen
get
to
it.
No, like I'm not going to change the channel. Meatloaf had a great voice.
Yeah,
I'm not going to rush out and buy any albums, but I respect the dude. R.I.P.
R.I.P. the loaf. So
Yeah.
we have to wrap this up here. It's getting
Yeah.
to be we're in this pretty good. We're in this for about an hour and 25 right now.
I know,
but it just went by real quick. I know.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a reoccurring thing where it's like two old men share their thoughts on everything from Columbia House to ZZ Top.
Yeah. Oh, I love ZZ Top. We could get into that too.
Rest in peace as well. Another one that we lost.
Yes.
So the way I want to wrap this up is want to let people know about what you're doing for the band and also what's coming up for what you're doing up in Vermont with the Rapture.
Yeah. So we got some shows on the horizon. A lot of them you can find again on Inverter Boston and Facebook. We have a Instagram page, YouTube channel, all that crap. Probably Facebook's the easiest one, even though some people are jumping ship with that. But most of the info's there, like update stuff. I don't know. Working on towards a new album, new merch soon. We've kind of sold out of all of our shirts and all that crap recently. And for the big boys out there, we're going to get some 2X, 3X, 4X because that's all we get asked.
Me too, man. It's nothing. It sucks going to a show and someone. I'll be like, I'll look at all the choices and go, well, I guess I'm getting a hat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got a lot of linebacker size fans, and I get it. And I've learned, I'm like, I can't tell you the last time I've ever sold a small or rarely a medium. It's all 2X at least, 4X, all the big dudes you want on your side. You don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah. You need moo-moos and hockey jerseys.
Yeah. ICP hockey jerseys.
ICP hockey.
It was like $200 each.
And you get a $2 coupon for what is that called?
Fago.
For Fago, yeah.
So we got some shows in the horizon. Hopefully it's stuff with Dog Fashion Disco. The guys in Todd Smith, who's a singer who I've been dealing with, he has that other side project band. You would like them. It's called Polka Dot Cadaver.
Polka Cadaver.
Insane.
Okay. All right, I'll look it up.
It's Lard meets System of a Down meets Mr. Bungle.
Oh, I love Mr. Bungle. I absolutely love Mr. Bungle.
Really, really weird stuff. And I've been listening to it. I'm like, this is genius.
What's it called? Polka Dot Cadaver.
Polka Dot Cadaver.
Polka Dot Cadaver. Okay.
It's him on vocals too. I don't know who the rest of the lineup is. Anyway, we got some stuff, I think, hopefully in store with them. That's way down the road. And I don't know, just writing. Yeah, just writing. We're working on a 4th album now. Like I said, Bracken and I are in his basement recording some of the rough demos. We bring them to the other dudes. They put their magic on top of them. Everything gets changed up. They'll suggest other riffs, and we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a little more eclectic and different than the last stuff. I think we started out real heavy, and while some of the albums have their super heavy moments, we're getting a little more musical with things. Cool. It's all about the hooks. And all the nerdy references. Like in the most recent album, there's a track called Last Summer, which is a tongue-in-cheek nod to a bunch of horror movies. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'd never liked that movie, but the chorus just came to me. And if you listen to the lyrics, it'll probably be a lyric video at some point. It's all obscure references to Troll 2, A Nightmare on Elm Street, God. Children of the Damned,
Leprechaun or stuff like that.
It's all hidden in that song, which comes off as almost this pop rock. It even has a clap track. 60s clap track in the back as a joke. I said, Bill, let's put a clap track in. He's like, that's ridiculous.
So, but it'll fit.
Yeah. And it's like a 60s tune or something. So we're getting weird with some of the stuff. And then, so I don't know, who knows where the new album will take us, but we're already hard at work with it. And, we'll be posting updates, shows, all that. Again, Inverter Boston on Facebook. Inverterband.com is the regular website where you can check out all our music videos. And then a workshop for hands-on tiny house building and construction the end of September. It's something called Tiny House Summer Camp. You camp out there. It's pretty intensive. It's all hands-on.
Where is it? It's in Vermont.
Yeah, northern Vermont, kind of a secret locale. I tell people Orleans, Vermont, when they sign up, they get the real directions, because I get people all the time who are like, can I go up there and visit and check out your land and snoop around? I'm like, no, thank you.
Nope.
I've instructed the neighbors to give you one warning shot, and that's it. So that's coming up, and that usually sells out. It's fun. We build some crazy stuff. There's guest speakers. You get to tour tree houses, tiny houses, all that. And that will be our 11th year doing it, I think.
Okay. Wow.
And it's all off grid. So, wimps need not apply. It's off grid on
bring your own TP. Yeah.
Bring your own deodorant. No, we got toilet paper and outhouses, a couple of them, but it's out there. 10 acres in Vermont in the woods. It's gorgeous though. It's like such a cool locale. We get a lot of people who have taken it who have come back 2 or 3 times to retake it because it's always different every year, the builds. So we got that. At some point, I'd like to do another one out in California near Joshua Tree. We've done a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
I've fallen in love with that area. And I'm just building a lot of tree houses for people. When the snow goes away, I'm finishing one. We got our town, Stoughton Bass, won the state of Massachusetts. We got 30.9 inches in that storm just recently. A lot of it is melted, luckily, but so almost 31 inches of snow in one storm. That's what you're missing. That's what you're missing.
This is the first time in years that we got snow here where I am. I'm in Rocky Point, North Carolina, just north of Wilmington, and we got like this much. I mean, it came down and then it's gone now. Obviously it's gone. So I don't miss it. I definitely don't. That's why I moved, because like I love New England, and I love the fact that where I lived, I was 25 minutes away from shows in Providence, an hour and 15 away from shows in Boston, 2 hours away from shows in New York.
There's so much there.
But the snow sucked so hard.
Most of it's gone away. I'll turn the camera here. Where we go? You can see all the glare from all the snow out there. Maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's all whited up.
It's just no, I don't miss that at all, man.
Side question for you, being in the Wilmington area.
Sure.
I assume you've probably gone to the Fat Pelican, right? Have you? The bar?
The Fat Pelican.
It's on near Cure Beach, or what's the beach near Wilmington?
Curry Beach.
Is that what it's called? Okay. Yeah. Anyways,
wait a minute. Did I go there? Hold on.
It's got an indoor. It's like a indoor flea market of weirdness.
No, I went next door. I went next door to the coffee shop. There's a coffee shop right next door.
Yeah, I've been there. So my friend lives right near there.
I never knew. If you drive down, you park in front. The Fat Pelican's got crap everywhere. But I didn't know what it was.
It's the best. So I'm a big dive bar fan. I have I do a lot of traveling. So I have my list of like dive bars I love, I've been to, and that's probably a top 10.
The other one you have to go to is downtown Wilmington, Barnaby Coast. It's where they shot.
Name seems familiar, but
it's the outside scene from Blue Velvet where they go into the bar where it said, "This is it."
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The sign said, "This is it," or "This is the place," or whatever. Same thing. You walk in there and it's a giant 8-foot tall mural of Lemmy. And there's crap everywhere. There's surfboards.
The Rainbow Room's another bar I love too.
Yeah,
when I'm in LA.
Wilmington's pretty eclectic with.
Oh, it's cool. I've been there many times.
Stuff, yeah. And there's a lot of history here, from movies. All kinds of my favorite movies. Maximum Overdrive was shot here, and Firestarter was shot here, and they, and there's a resurgence too. Like they shot the last Halloween Kills movie here. But they're shooting the new Halloween movie in Georgia because they get a tax break.
Yeah, that's what it usually comes down to. Yep.
But no, there's movies being shot here now. But yeah, those dive bars, like we do have one of the best bars to go see music at, and it reminds me of a lot of like Reggie's.
Yeah, I keep hearing about that place. Maybe someday we'll get down there.
You should come. I was gonna say, if you guys could team up with somebody else up north and come down and do a show there. I'm going to see a show this weekend on Friday. It's a benefit for the guitarist that was injured pretty severely in a motorcycle accident. He's the guitarist from the band Toke that's down here. Yeah. And on the list is the Girls, Worsen, Thunderlip, ASG, and Weed Eater, which I love Weed Eater.
Weed Eater, yeah, I know them. That's the only one I really know with that lineup.
And it's like 2 nights. It's sold out, but there's down here is definitely a lot like the Providence scene, the Jewett City scene. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's friends. There's no fights. We're too old for that shit. Yeah. And it's great, but
I'll have to get down there, man. It'll happen at some point.
Yeah, come back.
Yeah,
we come back. We miss you. The weather misses you.
I know. Yeah, I like North Carolina a lot.
It's great.
Cool.
All right, I'm going to end this on this. So, Deek, we're going to talk again later on down the road. I'd like to catch up with you in the fall before you do your Vermont trip. And I just wish you the best of luck, especially with Inverter, man. It sounds like you guys are going to be coming out with some different stuff, some cool things. So me.
Yeah, it's
I was
picking up. In a weird time, we're getting a lot of show offers. I just don't know what to do with some of them because the climate up here is kind of strange, COVID-wise and all that. So it definitely it's the first band I've ever been in where booking is the easiest thing ever because all the people come to us and ask if we want to play a show.
That's great. That's a rarity.
I can't tell you the last time I've contacted a club. Hey, you got anything for us?
Yeah.
We'll play a show. And 2 people in the crowd will be promoters or someone. Hey, we got a show for you guys. I'm like, oh, we're doing something right. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. I think
that's been pretty cool.
I think it's different. That's why the appeal is.
Yeah, we get billed with a lot of like blast beat death metal bands, which I love that stuff. But I think it's worked so well because we're the pace changer in the set.
Right. Exactly.
And we've noticed a lot of times we'll play and a lot of the women come up front because it's almost, I don't want to call it danceable, but it's got groove.
Yeah, it's got groove to it. Yeah.
I think some of them are, or just dudes in general are tired of hearing that 400 BPM blast beats in every song, which is an Olympic feat and awesome too. I love all that stuff.
Sure.
But we're the weird fish out of water place changer band that kind of work. It's like Clutch playing with Slayer. Somehow it works.
Right. Which System of a Down opening? Yeah.
Yes, I was at that show.
Me too. Like we'll save it for the next time because we can talk all day.
Reminiscing glory days.
Going down back in my day.
We used to walk uphill both ways in the snow.
We used to pay
to see Jelly Roll Morton.
We used to pay to play. So, all right, buddy.
Awesome talking to you, man.
Deek, best to you and the family and the dogs, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Dog's back here. He's sleeping right now. He's behind me.
Oh, good boy. I gotta go feed mine. They're
all right.
They're whining over here. So, all right, buddy. Good.
Talk to you, man. Always a pleasure. See ya.